YouTube, welcome back. Today we're continuing with the muscle building series. If you haven't seen the first two videos, go check them out. I went through the nutrition basics in the first one, and then in the second video, looked at nutrition again, but maybe in a little bit finer detail. This week, we're going to be looking at training. In a similar way, we're going to start with the basics, try and keep it as simple as we can, and then we'll move on to maybe some finer details in the following weeks. Before we do start, if you haven't subscribed, go ahead and do so you can keep up with these videos. Okay, so first and foremost, probably the biggest thing we need to get our head around is progressive overload. Okay, now all this really means is that over time we have to be giving our body a stimulus that is going to force it to then adapt. Okay, so if we were to do the same amount of volume, bearing in mind when it comes to volume, volume can be an accumulation of the amount of sets, reps and weight that you do in the gym. Okay, but let's just say you're doing exactly the same thing from week to week in the gym. Eventually that is not going to be giving your body enough of a stimulus or a new stimulus that is going to then prompt it to adapt. Okay, so as time goes on, we need to basically increase this volume to then give the body again a reason or a signal to adapt. So as we increase and progress this volume, or think of it as stimulus over time, we're then going to again allow our body to adapt. So this is the biggest thing we need to get our head around. Okay, now you can progress volume over time in again multiple ways. You've got the amount of sets that you're doing in the gym, so again as time goes on you can take sets up. You've got reps, so again as time goes on you can look at building reps, and you've got weight, so again as time goes on you can build the weight for each exercise up. If we're slowly progressing these things over time, then you're going to be ticking this box, and it doesn't really need to get a lot more complicated than that. However, I'll break down very quickly how I would look at progressing those things, those three factors. Okay, so let's take an example. Right, so this is an exercise, doesn't really matter what it is. We're doing 3 sets for 10 to 15 reps at 30 kilograms. Okay, so that's the 3 factors of volume that we have, and we can progress over time. By the way, when I say over time, this will be weeks, months. Okay, now the way I would do it, I would progress the reps first. So personally, I would give yourself a rep range within exercises rather than just set reps. Okay, because what this means is as time goes on you can build and work through these reps, right? So maybe you start off and you can only hit, let's say 12 reps at 30 kilograms for each set. You can then build up and maybe build up to 13, 14, 15. Okay, and when you finally max out the reps for each set, you then move on to weight. Okay, so you do the reps first, then you do the weight. Okay, so once you've maxed out the reps for each set, you might then take the weight up to say 35 kilograms, and you basically then start this rep cycle again. So then you go and work back up through taking the reps up. I would do these and progress these as much as you can first, then look at progressing sets sort of thirdly, lastly. Okay, so then you might go from 3 sets up to 4 sets, right? Now the reason why I would do these first before looking at sets is because in an ideal world we want to keep the amount of volume that we're doing as low as possible. So let people say minimum effective, so you're doing as little as possible but still getting that adaptation, that stimulus that your body needs to add muscle mass, right? Because if you do as little as possible, you're giving your body the best chance of recovering, which we need to do if we're looking at trying to progress things over time. Okay, because if you can't recover from what you're doing, you're not going to progress, you're not going to adapt. Okay, so if we keep volume as low as possible but still get a good response, that's ideal. Over time, again, as we get used to that response, things will need to progress, and we then might very well need to take sets up, and that's why we leave that till last. I will likely go through that in future videos, again finer details, but for this video just make sure you understand the principle of just progressing volume over time. Okay, secondly, intensity. So basically how hard you're training. Now this is key, right? because we want to make sure that we are training hard enough to get that stimulus that we're after. More importantly, especially if we're following that rule of thumb with training at the minimum effective, so doing the minimum amount of volume for the response that we're after, as we just spoken about. We need to make sure that our intensity is good enough to allow us to do that method effectively. Again, we keep this very, very simple. For each set that we're doing, we want to make sure that we're training at, let's say, an 8 to 10 out of 10 intensity. So 10 being you cannot do any more. Okay, so 10 being you get there and you have no reps left in the tank. 9 out of 10 being you have 1 rep left in the tank. 8 out of 10 being you have 2 reps left in the tank. 7 out of 10 being you have 3 reps left in the tank, and so forth. I would try and aim from anywhere between 7 to 10 out of 10, depending on the exercise, but again, we'll go through that in maybe the finer details video. If you're training anywhere between 7, 8, up to 10 out of 10 intensity for each exercise, for each set, then you're going to be making sure that you're training at high enough intensity that we need to get the stimulus that we're after. That is important though, because simply put, a lot of people just don't train hard enough. Okay, next we have frequency. Okay, so how often we're training. And in particular, I want you to think about this of frequency for each muscle group. Okay, so how often you're training each muscle group. So chest, back, quads, hamstrings, biceps, triceps, delts. What we want to aim for is 2 to 3 times per week. So we're training each muscle group 2 to 3 times per week. Okay. From the research that's been done, this sort of ballpark area looks like it's probably the most favourable for building muscle mass. So try and train each muscle group 2 to 3 times a week, but do so in a way that also allows you to recover in time before you train that muscle group again. Okay, and this is when sort of splits comes into play, because depending on the split you choose is probably going to depend on how well you manage to achieve this. Okay, so as an example, let's say you train 5 days a week. Let's say you train 5 days a week. Okay, so let's say you train Monday, Tuesday, Thursday, Friday, and Saturday. Okay, and we're looking at training each muscle group 2 to 3 times a week. Now, when you have the amount of days that you're going to train, when you have, trying to work out training each muscle group 2 to 3 times a week, the split in which you choose, you can almost do whatever you want and you can play around with it. For example, Monday, I might do an upper body session, I might do chest, back, and let's say delts, shoulders. Okay. Tuesday, I might do a lower body session, I might do legs, so hamstrings, quads, glutes, but I also might chuck in arms, so a bit of biceps and a bit of triceps. Comes back around to Thursday, I'm maybe going to do the same session as Monday in terms of the same group of muscles, so I'm going to do chest, back and delts. Friday, same as Tuesday, so I'm going to do quads, hamstrings, biceps, triceps, and then Saturday I can do a day where I can almost do whatever I want and maybe really prioritise the 3 times per week. So maybe I do a bit of, again, maybe a little bit of chest, back if I want to specialise upper body, or whatever it be, right? But you can really choose whatever you want to do. But the most important thing when I was talking about making sure you can recover between sessions, what I've done is here, because I've done basically the same session, so upper, lower, and then specialise, I've given at least 2 days in between each upper and lower session to then allow my body to recover before I train that muscle group again, right? And that's important because if you don't let your body recover in time, 1, you're not going to adapt as well, but 2, you're not going to be able to train as well within that session, okay? So upper, lower, and then let's say a specialised session. If I've done, so for example, if I've done upper and then upper again, chances are I haven't recovered enough time in one day, and therefore my training performance isn't going to be great and I'm not going to adapt as well, okay? So make sure you try to train each muscle group 2 to 3 times a week, but do that in a way that allows you to recover in between training that same muscle group. So there's some of the very, very basics of training in a way that's going to help you build muscle mass. We'll keep it there for today because I don't want the videos to get too long. But next week I'll go through, again, more training, but in maybe a little bit more detail, so you can really try and get the most out of your training for adding muscle mass. Hopefully you found this video helpful. If you did, please do drop a like. If you've got any questions, throw them down below and I can maybe then answer them in following videos. And if you haven't already, please do subscribe. I'll catch you on the next one.